Hello, world, and welcome to Bitter Grounds Magazine Podcast number 1, The Diary of an Analog Person. This hopefully will become a conversation with you, the audience, about what's happening on this side of the mic, life in Toronto, and pretty much whatever else crosses my mind. The format is a bit freewheeling at the moment, and we'll see where it goes and fine-tune along the way. A little heads up, you will hear all sorts of construction and street sounds in the background, sirens going off. That's just part of living in Toronto. There's always a condo going up in this area, street repairs happening, or an ambulance whizzing by. You know, I don't even hear the sounds anymore, so just consider them theme music for an urban podcast. Your comments are welcome. You can leave them below, or you can follow the link in the description and drop into Bitter Grounds Magazine website. That's bittergrounds.com, and you're welcome to leave a comment there as well. Keep it polite, please, no flaming other commenters. Let's see if we can start a discussion and see where it all goes. So what's going on in my little corner of the world this week? I think it's fitting to tell you about why I decided to start podcasting. It mostly hinges around a weird bit of nostalgia that occurred to me lately. Years ago, about 30 if you're curious, I worked in radio, managing a small campus community station. And it was fun, and there's no doubt about that, but I moved on and didn't look back or even think about the radio days much over the past couple decades. However, over the last year, I've begun to miss that sense of connection I had with an audience that I felt when I was on air. It's kind of funny. I haven't really thought about my old radio days in, well, like I said, literally decades. I don't miss working in radio, though. I enjoy what I do, and I get excited when I sit down to work on the magazine. When I left the station, I was burnt out. I mean, totally and utterly burnt out. And I wasn't enjoying the day-to-day bullshit that comes with working in community radio. I'd actually begun to loathe the daily battles just to keep the station running. But I do feel an attachment to the days I got up early, padded off to the station in the wee hours of the morning, lined up my music and prepared everything, and then hit that on-air button. Talking into the mic created a sense of intimacy, a sense that I was talking to the community at large. And since creating Bitter Grounds magazine and formalizing the setup, I felt something's been missing, and it's that strong connection, a way of reaching out to an audience and being a little less anonymous. I've been fussing with creating a YouTube stream, but settled on a podcast format. It's a little more like radio, and you don't have to watch me wave my hands around in a wild caffeine-fueled excess. And I am drinking an espresso right now, so that's those slurping sounds you'll hear occasionally. Back in the 80s, all the work was analog, hence the title Analog Person. We used big-ass reel-to-reels, edited with a razor while running the tape back and forth, figuring out where to make that edits. That's where we got that trying to figure out exactly where to make that cut. Remote interviews meant saddling up with a heavy Marantz reel recorder, which weighed... Can't remember off the top of my head how much it weighed, but you really thought twice before agreeing to go on a remote interview if you had to lug that bugger on a bus. Sometime in the late 80s, we tried to buy some of the first DAT recorders, digital audio tapes, to go digital. And just the difference was amazing in the sound quality and the weight of the equipment, the whole bit. But we were stonewalled by the student government who, at that time, couldn't understand why we wanted to waste, and I'm using air quotes on that one, money on a fad. Yeah, they were real long-term thinkers, those student leaders. We never did get them. We did manage to finagle 2 CD machines out of the budget. After long, protracted arguments about why we needed CDs at all. I mean, you have records, right? Was their response? Did I say they were forward-thinking people? Yeah. But we did finally get 2 CD machines, and we started getting in CD music. The arguments were monumental. However, I am digressing. Basically, it was that fit of nostalgia that prompted me to piss around with some software, testing out a few formats that led me here. And I wandered down the hill to Staples, bought a half-decent mic, and here we are. You sitting there, me sitting here. I am a little rusty talking into a mic, though. I am a bit surprised at how out of sync I am. I used to just plunk down in front of the panel and just start talking, and rarely had anything scripted out, just off the top of my head. And today, I must have started this conversation at least 20 times before surrendering to the notion that I did need crib sheets. And I may even need a script if I want to make this sound a little less So you'll have to bear with me for a while I get my feet back. I'll be posting podcasts when I get a chance. Regularity is still a bit problematic at this moment. Since mid-January, I've been taking care of my mother post-cancer surgery and juggling rather unsuccessfully work. I periodically vanish from the web, which means I'm up to my eyeballs in stress and work. Bear with me until things settle down into a routine. Things have already begun to even themselves out, so hopefully I'll have time to devote to the website again. And speaking of which, don't forget to drop into bittergrounds.com, the magazine that offers everything but the kitchen sink. It's basically espresso-fueled ramblings about whatever passes through my mind. It's broken down into 4 sections. There's the diary, which will become the basis of this podcast. Then there's photography and design, tech and stamps, and like I said, kitchen sink territory. The diary is pretty much what it sounds like, meanderings around my mind. Photography and design is the next section, and it's broken down into 2 distinct areas. My adventures in amateur photography, where I discuss my struggles to improve my skills, and the design section, which doesn't get as much attention, but looks at design in everyday life, from websites to store signage, and how it affects the way we look at the world. The third section is a lot of fun, and that's a lot of where my heart lies. The first part looks at apps, computer issues and hardware, the bread and butter of my consulting business. The next section is the patents, and that's just fun, out and out fun. That's a stroll through old patents and looking at the history of tech and how it affects our world. One of the fun parts I had, remember when batteries were exploding in I think it was the Samsung phones? Well, I went back and I looked at the earliest patents I could find for batteries and a little bit of history on batteries. So that pretty much gives you an idea of what patents are. This year is the anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, and I have 1 or 2 things up. One patent up on spacesuits, things that NASA has developed. There's a cornucopia of interesting patents online from NASA. So I even cover a little bit on astronaut underwear. There's something about that just amuses the hell right out of me. So you can log in and check out the patents part on the site. And then the last part is stamps. I'm sorry. Once a nerd, always a nerd. I can't get away from my stamp collection. And it's a little history of stamps, a little history of what led to them, new stamps, old stamps. Sometimes it's looking at what's in my collection. Often it's what's coming up at auction, stamps I'd like to have, or ones that just capture my attention because there's a specific bit of history about that stamp that I adore. So there you have it. Pop by and check it out. Leave a comment, don't leave a comment. It's up to you. I don't mind lurkers. That's about it for the first inaugural podcast for the Bitter Grounds website. And I'll wrap it up there. Gave you a bird's eye view of what it's going to be, where we're heading with this. Hopefully I'll be able to iron out the kinks a little bit more. Stop saying so much. Can't believe how much I've been doing that. It's a bit embarrassing, especially somebody that came out of radio. Never used to do that. We'll see where it all goes. Enjoy yourself. Have a good day. And I'll talk to you, well, next time around.